All right, welcome back to Blue by the Numbers. I'm Tanner, joined by Brian today. Brian, tough weekend for our Michigan-based football teams. It was tough, man. That's what I got. That's how I'm starting it.
It was a tough weekend. I mean, as big a Michigan fan as I'm also a lifelong Lions fan, and you get so excited for football season to come back, right? And then for that to be the weekend, it was just a lot of pain. It was a lot of
Long
pain.
season.
Long
I made this
season.
comment to Justin on our Blue by 90 podcast. A lot of football left, and it's a long season, and a
It is
lot
long
can
season.
happen, and there's a lot of development that happens over the course of the year. But initial thoughts: Saturday night, Oklahoma. Kind of a. I know Michigan lost by 11. They were down 8 in the fourth. It was a bit of a rock fight. I mean, Oklahoma had some explosives. Michigan had an explosive run, but kind of, for the most part, it still felt like a dogfight a little bit. That just Michigan couldn't, get out of their own way sometimes, and Oklahoma definitely aided that with some turnovers. But what were your thoughts on the game on Saturday?
I mean, I tend to think much like you do. I mean, we were still in that game most of it. Like as ugly as it was, as painful as it was, many mistakes, and we'll get into the play calling and how different guys played, but we were still in it. I did think, complimentary. John Mateer might be my favorite player to watch in college football. That guy's awesome. Just his grittiness. I mean, everything I love to watch in a football game. The other thing that stood out to me is if you're not a fan of either one of those teams, there were two times early in the game when the game was kind of trying to be sorted out, third and long, where Mateer just throws prayers up and his receivers just make miraculous catches. Not the greatest catches of all time, but if those get tipped and they go to bounds, no one thinks anything different. They're punting and away we go. And we didn't. I mean, McCulley's catch was pretty remarkable, but other than that, we didn't have a lot of that. And it was kind of an ugly game, really, for both sides. I mean, they had turnovers and penalties, letting us convert on third down that we wouldn't have otherwise. It was kind of an ugly game. It is just one game early in the season with plenty of time to get better. We have a couple games now that we can try to get it right. But as excited as we were last week, of all the potential this team possesses, this game, if you're a Michigan fan, you were humbled. If you were thinking whatever you were thinking, your expectations have to have changed a little bit. I don't think the world's falling apart, but
Yeah.
our expectations for the top end of this team, I think, the governor on that has come down a bit.
Yeah, so a little behind the scenes here, I guess. So I text one of our friends who makes our graphics, and so I typically try to get the YouTube algorithm, and I try to come up with something catchy or just something off the top of my head. Last year against Texas, the thumbnail says "shell shocked." That was
Yeah.
not this. This
No.
graphic on our most recent podcast says "back to earth,"
Yeah.
back to reality. Right? That's kind of a
Mhm.
little bit of a gut check for Michigan and Michigan fans. So all that potential that we thought was there, I still think is there.
Definitely.
I think, I think the offensive line, they needed, I think we don't really preview games on this show, but just moving forward, I think against Central Michigan, I think you got to try some different things. You got to get the best five out there, see who gels. You may have to go with some different lineups, but I think there's still a lot of potential. Obviously, at the quarterback position, not his best night. Only a second start on the road against a ranked SEC opponent, Brent Venables, who is we talked about, is a guy that is known for confusing college quarterbacks, especially younger quarterbacks. So, I think there's still a lot of room for growth. And that's, again, it's a long season. It is September 10th here as we record this. We're in early September. It's still warm out. So, this team is going to make improvements. They're going to take strides. But I'm with you where, all right, well, now it's a little bit back to the drawing board, and we need to kind of find something that works between what this program's identity has been built upon forever in running the ball, being tough. Because, again, going back to the offensive line, there wasn't really a moment where I was, that 75-yard touchdown run, it was well blocked. They had 7 offensive linemen in. I loved it. But there wasn't a moment in a tough situation, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, where they could go and man ball you and get a first down like we've come to expect over the last few years. So there's got to be kind of a way to merge that identity with Chip Lindsey and what he wants to do. But they've got to do a little bit of soul searching in the next couple weeks.
I think so. I think you know, very few teams are really good at everything, you know. And if you have a weakness, you need to find a way to call plays, make plays around those weaknesses, despite those weaknesses. And it doesn't seem like we've sorted that out. Like we have a dynamic quarterback that can make every throw on the field. That even though we haven't seen it yet, we've seen his tape from high school. The guy can make plays with his legs, and we'll get into it. We get the position groups. I don't. There's some narratives going on about some of the guys or some of the position groups in our team that I don't completely agree with, and we'll get into it. But I think when your offensive line can't establish anything, there's so many times you watched and the line was pushed back 2-3 yards at the snap. The line of scrimmage was reset. Where in the past, we were 2 yards downfield. Now it's going the other way. That limits your ability to call plays. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's kind of, all correctable. I think mostly correctable. I shouldn't say all correctable. Most of it correctable.
Yeah, some of it's just going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
And retooling and rebuilding of the roster. We talked about that a little bit, Justin and I did, and I'd love to get your thoughts because I think there's a lot of social media is an interesting place. There is a lot of things, and I keep my feed as much as I can to sports and to college football. So then I end up getting a lot of rival fans, and which is great.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing their takes. They're very measured. They're never over the top. They're never quitting on a guy in his first NFL start 2 minutes into the game and proving wrong happen. 30 minutes later. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
But I do see a lot of Michigan fans that maybe I don't follow, or maybe I do, that come up and if Sharon doesn't do X, I'm out. It's like okay, like I have some critiques and I've been critical, but I also think, give the man some time to build it the way that he wants to build it and, instill some of the things he wants his program to be. But my point of saying all that was, I don't think love Jim Harbaugh, won us a national championship, forever indebted to that man. But I don't think on his way out that the recruiting effort was really there. And I think you're starting to see that a little bit because 2023 class is juniors now,
mm-hmm.
right? And so I think that, again, that may be something that just takes time. It's just you can't do it overnight. I mean, you can do it a little bit with the portal, but then you've got to have your homegrown kids in the program for 2, 3, 4 years. It just may take time on some of those things that I'm assuming you were alluding to in terms of, there's some guys that are just – they're good football players are just physically not as dominant as what we've been used to with Olu-Timmy, Drake Nugent, right? Like those great centers for that time. Andrew Bastardis as well. Trevor Keegan, Zach Zinner, all those guys, right? So it may just take a little bit of time. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's what your picture is or what your outlook is. Like, are you looking at, is your expectation before the Oklahoma game that this team was going to win the Big Ten, go to the college football playoff, and win a national championship? If that was your expectation and that's something you put in your brain, then you're probably really hurt. And maybe that's the source of some of that rhetoric that you see on social media because people have false expectations. I still have this. My expectations of this team haven't really changed. I think they win. They can win 9-10 games if they win the right games. Maybe squeak into the playoffs. Not playing a really good bowl game, and then you're building for next year. You retain people. You play a style of ball that's attractive to people, and then you keep building the roster to the points that you alluded to. So it's all about what your expectation and perception is. And I believe that we're kind of we're a year away. If we can be a really competitive team in Bryce Underwood's sophomore year and then be ready to win it all his third year, I mean, that's kind of got to be, a program building mentality, I think. And that's, when a lot of fans, it's like national championship or bust. And, I'd love to think that's a reality, but it's not reality for many teams in the country. So,
no.
And
maybe
that's way too pragmatic.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I came on this podcast and I said Michigan was win 31-17. I was 25 points off. Sometimes you're a little bit away from your target. But I always say I'd rather be overhyped than be just miserable. Like,
yeah,
it's supposed to be fun, right? And if you lose, well, it sucks, but you get over it and life moves on. But yeah, I'm with you. I think you're really kind of building towards 26 and 27. With Bryce Underwood, with this team, with the talent they've brought in, especially the 2025 class and the 2026 class. There's some guys that are going to be major contributors here, and hopefully get Michigan back to where they want to be. So yeah, to your point, and I'd love for Michigan to get there. And I think if they continue to recruit, the way that they have, I need to see a little bit more development. I'd love to. I mean, I'm not asking for it to be Jim Harbaugh level of development, but would like to start to see some of these younger guys, get better throughout the year. But I certainly think there's a world where they can be that type of program, one of the top 5 in the country in terms of consistently being in that conversation. So, yeah, I think some folks needed to adjust their expectations. We were very excited about Bryce, and I'm still very excited about Bryce, but true freshman, road game, again, ranked opponent, one of the tougher places to play in the country. That's going to be tough for any young quarterback, let alone an 18-year-old making a second start.
Yeah, and I think one thing to put a pin in that we don't know is, one thing that's made a lot of buzz on social media the last few days is, the AP voter, that the woman that moved Florida up in the rankings and didn't watch the game after they lost to USF. And to that point, preseason rankings and our own bias about certain programs give a false read of who's good and who's bad this early in the season. And the pin I referenced is, how good is Oklahoma? Like, if Oklahoma goes this year and loses 4 or 5 games, then this when we look back on week 2 at their place, you're like, that was a bad win. Michigan isn't that good. If Oklahoma, it turns out to be really good, and from what I saw, they could be, I think, they got to keep that quarterback healthy because he runs around like a wild man.
Yeah, I don't think you can run him 19 times a game in the SEC.
Yeah, that's not sustainable. But, they could be a really good football team. You look at the history of college football. What is he in year 3 or 4 at Oklahoma?
Who?
Head coach.
This is 4th year.
Okay, yeah. So he's kind of, this window, but is this the year that they break through? And if so, we look back 7-8 weeks from now and we've stabilized, we've got things right. And you think, okay, so we lost the number 4 team in the country. You know what I mean? So the story is being written and we don't really know what this game was. We just don't.
Yeah, it's tough to know so early in the season. I mean, same with, you look at the NFL, like you have no idea. You have somewhat of an idea, and you have an expectation, and you have an assumption at what teams are going to be good. And we know the Bills and Ravens game from Sunday night. We're going to look back, and those are probably be a couple playoff teams, but you really truly don't know.
Yeah,
especially in college football where the turnover is so big. It's there's so many variables when it comes to college football players and teams. Like they're 18 to 22-year-old kids, really.
Right.
And they're learning to become men, and it just is not as consistent performances as it is at the professional level. So it's even harder in college football to know who's going to be good, who's going to be championship contenders. You can sort of get an idea, but you're not going to know until October at the earliest.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's my whole point.
So let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
We kind of gave our thoughts on the program as a whole. Where were you? I don't know where I want to start here with the Oklahoma game, but let's talk about the good. What did you take out of that game moving forward? You're like, you know what? I can work with this. This makes me excited.
So, good question. I think, I think of the offense. I mean, Justice Haynes is as explosive a running back that I can remember. We've had a lot of really good running backs. A lot of guys have different skills, different traits. When's the last time? I mean, I'm thinking all the good backs we've had is the last explosive back, Tyrone Wheatley. Who have we had that's really can run away from people?
Sophomore Blake Corum before he added the weight. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't remember him ever being breakaway like that, but yeah,
Donovan is a sophomore.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's true, right? Yeah. Donovan. If you just watch a couple games, so we'll see how he sustains that. But you asked what stood out. That is, and we can, what else on the offensive side of the ball? As much as people want to criticize in those stable social media folks, one thing that I walked away feeling good about Bryce Underwood is he never panicked. He never looked panicked. He didn't turn the ball over. You know what I mean? How many times in that situation do you make a bad situation or losing situation much worse by just getting reckless and careless? That didn't happen. He's still yet to turn the ball over. That's coming. Turnovers are just happening. What else in the offense stood out? Not a whole lot on the offense, really. Like I think defensively, I think we have some young guys that I'm just super excited about. Cole Sullivan continues to look great. Marshall seems like he's impacting plays all the time out there. Um, who else jumped off the page for me? TJ Metcalf. I know you love him. He was everywhere. Although his coverage skills, he might be more Peppers than I originally.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just
because
thinking
Peppers
like
was
he'd be a
kind
perfect
of,
Viper.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Um, not a lot of stuff got me really excited. Dominic Nichols, Nate Marshall, Cole Sullivan, the real young guys in this class that, we talk about building for the future. That's what's got me excited. Jair Hill had a really good game. Like some of the stuff that we complained about him in that first game, he kind of cleaned up there. I didn't see some of that. What else? That's about it on the real positives, if I'm being honest.
I like the fight. I mean, I know,
Yep.
like you can say, oh, they're getting paid now, but I did like the fight. They kept defensively. The one touchdown they gave up in the second half was a play that Brandon Hillman should have made the sack, or that led to a touchdown, right?
That happened a few times.
Yeah. And Mateer, I mean, look, Mateer is like maybe a little bit of a hybrid and not both of their best skill sets, but maybe a little bit of a hybrid between Tim Tebow and Baker Mayfield in terms of just like willing to run, willing to, throw a shoulder, but is a pretty good passer. So like, like a, I don't know, like not a poor man's version of both of those guys, but kind of. So
he reminds me of Baker Mayfield's a good comp, I think. I don't know the arm talent of Baker.
He's clearly not. He's not as big as Tim Tebow. I know.
Right. Yeah.
I can already see the comments. I'm just saying, like the willingness to run, and I know Baker will run, but maybe it is just a Baker Mayfield comp. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if he does not have as good of an arm.
No.
And we talked about some of his mechanical issues, and that did show up. He did throw that pick to Metcalf. But again, the defense in the second half. Yeah. Jair, But as I'm saying that, they did go on like a 9-minute drive to ice the game, basically. So it would have been nice to get off the field. I do think his running ability was just the difference maker for Oklahoma. And every third down, he made a play with his leg or with his arms, through his legs. And it was just difficult for Michigan to get off the field. I was excited about Donovan McCulley. Like we had heard about the jump ball contested catch ability. Would love for him to just go up with it to him and let him go make a play, let him box the guy out. He did have the one opportunity, came down with it off the back of the helmet. Justice Haynes. I thought Jake Guarnera looked good coming in. He was moving people. That's more than I can say for some other guys. I thought Cole Sullivan had a solid game. Honestly, I don't know what the game would have looked like, but Jay Sean coming in the second half, I think was a huge part of, their ability to get stops. Right. And again, that last drive took 9 minutes. So it's like hard to, but I thought Jay Sean played really well. Would have loved to have had him for the first half. I think maybe
early on. Because we weren't getting home. We had no pass rush in the early part of that game. And he's such a big part of that. So
do you think that was any part of a concerted effort to not let Mateer make, scrambles? Like because it just didn't make sense because it just didn't seem like there was much of a rush attempt from the defensive ends. And I don't know if they wanted to stay in their lanes or what, but it just something felt off.
We did have a guy assigned him. I mean, they were aware of his running, like, the Hillman play you mentioned. There were several of those where we just didn't get home. Like if you watch the replay of the game, and I encourage anyone to go watch, there's a few people who put out like 30, 40-minute recaps of replay game. Watch how many times we should have got home. It wasn't the scheme's fault, really. Guys just took bad angles, missed tackles. I think it was one of the worst tackling games I can remember as a Michigan fan. We missed so many tackles. So many tackles.
I'd love to know how many yards after contact they had because they just
a lot. There
was a few times where you had a 0 or 1 yard gain and then it was first down or close to it.
I think, one thing I liked about that game that I didn't like about the game is we spent a lot of time last week talking about Marlon Klein. And sometimes you don't know, what's that saying? You don't know how much you love something until it's gone. He created space. He was open, willing target. And without him, that just wasn't there. There was that one deep out route to Zach Marshall that was there. And we've talked about how fast Marlon Klein was. Marlon Klein's there. He's taller, he's bigger, and he's a whole lot faster. He probably gets
Well,
there.
Bryce
You know
has
what I mean?
probably repped that with Marlon, not with Zach, right?
That's
So it's
another good point.
probably
Yeah.
it's probably muscle memory to make that throw in terms of
Yep.
Marlon's athletic ability. And Zach Marshall's a really good athlete. I'm still excited about his potential here. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he did get open on that wheel route when Bryce was under pressure. That play, do you think that Bryce was trying to get it to the wheel route because he had so much pressure, but he's got such a strong arm? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? Because there was an
I
underneath
didn't know
route.
exactly what you're talking about.
I couldn't tell. I have no idea if he was trying to
Yeah.
get it to the out to the wheel
It's hard
route
to say.
or yeah.
I
I
could
mean, there was
fabricate
missed
what is.
opportunities, right?
There
Like
was
you think
definitely.
about Donovan McCulley's got that one-on-one with the defensive back. Defensive back is flat-footed, and Donovan runs basically a post, and Bryce throws it out of bounds. I mean, if he throws to the middle of the field, that's a touchdown, and you're
Yeah.
down 21-17. Yeah, just a lot of missed opportunities, man. I thought that there were, yes, your offense wasn't great Saturday night, but your offense wasn't great. Like you sometimes when you're in those, plus 35, plus 38, don't punt it. First of all, let your All-American kicker try it. But go for it on those
Yeah.
those 4th and 2s, those 4th and 3s. Take a shot because you don't know when you're going to get the ball back again. And they obviously didn't score enough points to be even within a score at the end of the game.
Michigan had more drives in their side of the field, more possessions that ended on their side of the field than the other way around. So I mean, they scared money don't make money. You know what I mean? Like to your point, go for it, take some risks. I think when interested in your thoughts, it seems like the number one thing I see online is since the game ended and was questioning the offensive play calling. Where do you come in on that?
I do. So I do understand the frustration, certainly, and I wanted, in the moment, I wanted Michigan to open it up more. But I think as the game went on, and maybe it was because Michigan was in a scenario where they're down late in the game, and Oklahoma knows they need to throw the ball. But the last thing I want to happen to Bryce is what happened to Devin Gardner. And what I mean by that is just not trusting your offensive line. Your clock and your head's going off after a second. Like you don't think you got any protection. So I do understand it to a certain extent. And a lot of people are like, oh, you can't protect your quarterback. Well, you kind of can because this is not, again, this is a 3-year investment for Michigan and for Bryce Underwood. This is not you're not winning the national championship Saturday night.
Bingo.
And you're not losing it either, right?
Right.
Like look, they're not, I don't think they're going to make a Cinderella run and win a national championship this year, but you're not out of it. That game, yes, it would have been great to win. Yes, it would have been great for your playoff chance if you lose a game or two here or there, but it's a 12-team playoff now. You're not out of it. So I think, take an opportunity against Central Michigan to make them more comfortable. I really wish, and this is no disrespect to the Matt Rule-led Cornhuskers, but I wish those games were flip-flopped in date because I think that would have been an easier transition for Bryce to go into Lincoln, Nebraska and play that team versus – but at the same time, I do think it was a really good thing that Bryce went through that so early, and now he's going to be able to learn from it and, be on the same page with his teammates, understand, hey, you know what? I really gotta get my cadence up. Like I gotta scream on the road. When I'm in the horseshoe next year, I gotta be screaming, losing my voice because I'm screaming these play calls or screaming the cadence or the adjustments at the line. So I think it was really good. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to go crazy and throw it 50 times last Saturday. I think you can be a little conservative, but I would like to see him open it up as he gets more reps under his belt.
For me, two things can be true. One, I've said this for a lot of last year and even last week. Our offensive line is not that good. You know what I mean? Like, when El Hadi goes down, there's a reason why Andrew Babalola was pushed into that starting spot. It goes back to that point you were making earlier about raising the level of talent on the team. He was obviously making a push, and maybe that's him, and maybe that's a 5-star being a 5-star, or maybe that also speaks to what we have, but we're not getting the push that we've come to expect. And I realize I'm talking on both sides of my mouth a little bit because earlier I said if you have a weakness, find the way around it. But I do know as a play caller, it's difficult if you can't protect and block the play to work. You know what I mean? It's amazing how good wide receivers look when the quarterback has 3.5 seconds to toss the ball to them. It's
Yeah.
amazing how bad people are critical of the wide receiver group when a guy has under 2.5 seconds to do it. You know what I mean? So part of the issue is they got to clean up that offensive line. They have to sort that out. I don't know what the answer is. I know I have some ideas on it. I'd love to, get your best five out there regardless of where they are. And I think Blake Frazier is a better option than the guards we're rolling out there right now. And this week with, Hottie out, most likely out, and hope he's out for a long period of time. But, give him some run. Let's see what he's got. Let's see how they gel. I do think there is a little bit of bubble wrap with Bryce. Like the guy has it all. And there's some balance between protecting him and not exposing him and not having him play reckless football. And, and if you're the offensive coordinator at Michigan and making $1 million plus to be the year, that's why you're paid to sort that out when to push and when to pull back. And, I thought the second to last drive, they waved the white flag. It was 3rd and 8. They had max protect, 3rd and 8, passing down right. The only receiver, there's 2 receivers to the right, Channing Goodwin and Max Bredesen. Max Bredesen immediately goes to block. Channing Goodman goes like 8 yards and block, all on the right side of the field, and they throw a screen to Justice Haynes. And as soon as he catches, like 4 guys, I mean, that's just waving the white flag. Like you're not even trying to make a play out in space. You're not even trying, a dig route scheme there would be perfect. Something other than that. And so I felt like they called that game knowing it was going to be challenged, like almost not expecting to win. Like, let's just get in a rock fight and hopefully some way the ball bounces, we win. And so I think both are true. That you gotta, we threw. Let's see, in the first half we had 10 pass plays, 6 were screens, 4 were less than 5 yards. That means 1 pass went over 5 yards. Like,
Was that the miscommunication where he threw it all the way? And that's just to be expected, right?
Yeah.
Like that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You're just not on the same page. It happened on what looked like maybe an RPO that McCauley didn't hear, and he's blocking downfield, and Bryce is like, "You're supposed to be running a route," throws it up to him, right? So, but yeah, I'm with you. I thought they telegraphed a lot of what they did too. Like there was a formation where they had 4 to one side, and it was Haynes was offset, and I was watching. I was like, they're just going to throw it to him. And I'll tell you though, the linebacker at Oklahoma that's on scholarship or NIL money that watches film all week also knew it was going to Justice Haynes, just like the guy on the couch did. So yeah, I thought they telegraphed a lot of what they were doing. I didn't think they did a great job of utilizing play action. Yeah, just overall, wasn't great. Wasn't great. Wasn't a great game plan, but again, there's a lot of moving parts here to kind of have that need to find, a way to mesh together. And again, that might take time. And by the time we get to October, November, if they figure things out, there's certainly a lot of potential with this offense to be more explosive. And again, they did have some big plays. They had the touchdown run, and they had the long pass. They actually had, honestly, there was a couple in the first half that were, the one to Samaj on the rollout. I think he got about 15. There was one to Channing Goodwin on a rollout. They might just need to get Bryce on the run. Just rolling to his right. He seems so comfortable.
So comfortable. Here's devil's advocate, right? And a sincere question. So everyone's being critical of the play calling and being conservative and not taking shots. Let's just say the outcome's the same. But the path to getting there is different. And that path looks like us taking a bunch of shots downfield, and the fans get what they want. They take shots downfield, they spread it. Bryce Underwood throws 2 interceptions and puts one on the ground. And the score is the exact same. What's the story? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it has to be. It's not a zero-sum proposition. I'm not suggesting if they would have done that, that would have been the outcome. I'm just saying that I think there's times where as fans, we just want to win. And when it doesn't win, we got to find something to blame, point fingers at. And, is protecting him, not just from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint, not putting him in situations where he will do that. Because let's face it, as bad as, you didn't have a great quarterback rating, people, there's plenty to be critical of. But yeah, I think if he went out and threw a couple picks and threw some bad dumb ones, like the narrative could be a whole lot worse. Like, okay, this guy, now that guy just moves on and he still hasn't turned the ball over, and his psyche's not wrecked, and I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just thinking aloud.
Well, sometimes guys throw a bad pick and the internet loses its mind. We saw that on Monday night, Brian. I mean, so
It's your second
nobody
reference.
gives nobody gives young quarterbacks the time anymore
It's true.
to make mistakes and work through them. And I don't, there were some throws I'm sure Bryce wanted back, but I do think he did a good job of just not throwing a backbreaking pick, right? Because you're still in it. You're in it. You're fighting. You're down 11 most of the second half, but you are driving multiple times. You get the muffed punt. Just can't capitalize on it.
Can't capitalize.
I didn't think the special teams was great.
It's a problem. It's a problem.
I also didn't like that Sharon said he deferred to a special teams coach when punting from the 38 for a net punt of 18 yards.
I hated that. Like I hated that. Even if that's true, you don't say that out loud. Like even if it's like I wanted to trust you got to stand up there. If it works out, then you give him the credit. But when it doesn't work out, you got to own it. You got to say, you know what, I made a call, and maybe next time I'll learn from that, and maybe I should have done it differently. But I felt like it was the right thing to do in that situation because of X, Y, and Z. You don't say I just deferred to a guy that works for him. You just don't do that.
No. I mean, I delegate all the time, but you got to be tactful about it.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't love that. I would have rather take. And I know he missed one, but the Fowler jinx was awful. By the way, just Chris, shut up. Shut your mouth. Yeah. No disrespect, because I do love Chris Fowler. Except I was a little on his ass Saturday Night Brian after that, but I think it's because he's the announcer a lot of times in college football, the video game, and so then if I throw a dumb pick, he's like, "Oh, 12 picks on the year," and I'm like, "Shut up, Chris." So then it's rolling over into real life here. The announcer jinx was rough because that, who knows what the game looks like if they make that field goal, but theoretically you have that 3 and you're down 24-16, you're still in it. You still have belief that you can, because that last final drive just felt like, there's nothing you can really do. There was no faith that they were going to go out there, score, get an onside, and score again. So kind of nailing the coffin on that field goal. But yeah, man, it was I will say it was fun seeing those colors out there, the maize and blue and the white with the maize pants against Oklahoma's classic uniform. I love Oklahoma's uniforms. I actually am I kind of like OU. Like, I don't really, I don't have any beef with them. I think they're a historic program, and I have some friends who are OU fans. They've always been cool, and it was cool to see that, and I'm excited for them coming next year to the Big House. Hopefully, we can be hospitable hosts. But it was a cool matchup to see, man, because and it wasn't at Jerry World or Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Like, it was
football
on
games should
campus.
play college football stadiums. Period. End of story. Yeah.
I mean,
I've heard from maybe 4 or 5 people. I mean, not a ton, but just how great their fans were and what a great experience. I love hearing that. That's how it should be, right? I mean, it should be fun. It should be like, okay, we want to kill you, but like, happy to be here and flattered that you spent money to come see our home stadium. That's how it should be, right? But great color matchup, great. Just that night atmosphere. I mean, college football, everyone for the most part just figure out how to make an entertaining experience. The lights, the sounds. I mean, it's just awesome. I don't know. They didn't show it on TV. I don't think they did. But, just like we have our bright side there of their deal, and coming out of the third quarter, Michigan on the sidelines. I didn't see it on TV. I just saw it on social media. But how our team did what we've been doing for the last 3-4 years of celebrating whatever they do in their stadium, and our fans our team going crazy, doing their deal, I thought was super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like seeing that in a win, but if that's what it takes to get the juice going, then do it. Right. I've been at Nebraska in 2021 when they were down after Cade threw his first pick of the year, and they were down going into the third quarter. Nebraska does their light show, and then they're basically at the 50-yard line midfield, like towards Nebraska's bench, and they needed that. They did that to Wisconsin, so that's what they got to do. Then that's what they got to do, but it's a lot more fun when it comes in a win.
Yeah, but it goes back to that. I mean, it's like I feel like we're both talking all sides of our mouth because we're taking our lumps, but they fought to the end. So I mean, maybe
Yeah,
that kept them from throwing in the towel and making, like I mentioned
yeah.
earlier, making a 10-point loss being a 20-point loss.
Well,
So
and
100%.
here's the thing: everything's in front of them. I mean,
100%.
yes, you lost, but you have literally every goal, aside from going undefeated, every goal that you want to accomplish is on the table. Like you control your, it's week 3. You control your destiny, right? So it's okay. It's a long season, and you have the opportunity to move forward and achieve those goals of winning the Big Ten, beating Ohio State, going to the playoffs, so on and so forth. So, anything else stick out to you on Saturday or?
No, I think a couple things we talk about the young guys. Another great opportunity to see, the Shamari Earl situation drives me crazy. Jaden Sanders, they played 3 cornerbacks in that game, right? As much as we talk about depth,
Yeah.
they played 3. They played snaps. Jaden Sanders, who I know they like him, true freshman, highly recruited, didn't get nearly the run, the buzz that Shamari Earls got, thrust into action. Uh, you know, PFF gave him the lowest grade. I
Was
think
it? I
I
don't
put it.
remember it being that bad.
Well, I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, as someone that does these weekly PFF updates for the last 3-4 years, I can't remember putting a 31
I
on
don't.
one of our
I feel like I
4 years.
would have. I feel like we would have remembered if it was that
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Um,
Let's see. And he was the highest graded defensive back in tackling. So, uh,
so
you
his
know,
coverage was
you know what? His grade wasn't 31. That was a snap and it was a typo. His grade was 67 point.
okay. I was gonna say. I was like, I don't remember
69.50.
being that
Yeah,
bad. So
right.
right
So
in
this is
line with
bad.
Zeke Berry.
Right?
So
Yeah, right in line. Yeah. So
not
erase everything I just said.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
that's
but
okay. We'll let them.
he,
We'll leave it in there for everyone
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
enjoy our confusion together.
right, right. But yeah, but the point stands. Shamari Earl should be getting those snaps, and if you work Jaden Sanders and then you play 4 quarters,
Well,
but
Jaden Sanders
injuries.
didn't face plant
No, I
pregame,
know.
so that's
Yeah,
that's
no,
a
dude.
check in his
No. Yeah,
in his box there.
yeah. I think. I mean, our defensive, sometimes we're told lies coming out of spring how good things are. I don't think our defensive line is nearly as good. Maybe it's scheme. I think you raised a really good question earlier about, were we just trying to keep him boxed in a little bit, so we didn't. That doesn't seem like a Wink Martindale intentionality, but maybe that's the case. But we just weren't getting home, and so that seems to be a product of, not having the type of line we thought. I feel like our 4 linebackers all bring different skill sets to the table. I think as much as I like House and Barham in their tackling ability, you watch that tape again, they're both liabilities in coverage, right? And Jimmy Roller's decent. Like Cole Sullivan seems like he's everywhere, but I think they're not the as exciting as they are and as big impact plays that they'll make all season long. They're a liability in coverage, and they're going to have to figure that out because I feel like they're thumpers, and Brandon Hillman's a thumper, and Mason Curtis wants to come out and make plays. When you have all those guys in the middle want to make plays, we didn't get burned much though, so I don't know. We'll see. Like you said, everything's in front of us, and still got to sort it out. And one thing we learned last year is Wink Martindale figured out the talent he had as they went along, and they got better. Players improved obviously, but I think his schemes got better. And by the end of the year, we started wreaking some havoc on people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You got a get right game on Saturday, noon, Central Michigan. Brian, you won't be there. I will. I'll be drinking the Maizen Blitz from Woodson Whiskey. I'll be drinking the bourbon probably. Not together at the same time, separate drinks, of course. We'll
Of
have some.
course.
I don't need to mix the two whiskeys together. But Feldman Chevrolet of Highland will be there as well with their High Country. That Brian, I'll tell you, man. Every time I get a couple of those Woods and whiskeys, I'm like, I might need to trade my truck in for this one. This
Get
one,
a credit
I only
application.
have a 5.7 liter V8. That's got a 6.2, so it'd
Mm,
be an easy sell to the wife. And wouldn't be able to drive it home. I'd have to wait. I don't even know
right.
if I could do the paperwork at the tailgate. But anyways, we'll be at the tailgate. We're gonna have some drinks. We're gonna have some food. We're gonna have some trucks you could check out. We have a lot of great people there. It's gonna be a great time. So come to the tailgate, come hang out with us before Central Michigan. We got to get Brian up one of these days. Brian, any final comments as we get on out of here?
Need to see improvement, as we're 2 weeks away from Nebraska. So I think for this week, play every combination that's available. I don't care about style points this week. I know some of our fans are going to want a pound of flesh and win this game by 50 so they can all feel better. And Bryce Underwood's, and I would love that too. Would bring me tons of joy. But I think more importantly is test all the things you want to test, because then we get the Big Ten slate in Nebraska the following week. So figure out some continuity on that offensive line, move some guys around, see who plays well together, study the tape. Same on the defensive line, same with the defensive backfield. Hope, rumblings that Rod Moore could make his return. I'm questionable about how a guy that's off that long can make an impact, but man, at his best is one of the better defensive backs we ever had at school. So, yeah, I'm still optimistic. Like you said, everything's in front of us. And, I think my top end expectations have been reduced a little, but not diminished. And so I'll be fired up to watch them Saturday like I am every week.
Hey, man, like JJ McCarthy said after he threw his pick six, where would you rather be, right? You only get so many football games, so enjoy it. Again, come check out the tailgate. We're going to have a great time, and we'll be in the big house rooting on the Wolverines. So, it's going to be a fun season, man, and hopefully the Lions get right, too, against the Bears. I think
Let's go.
After the first drive, I was like, oh, man, we're going to miss Ben Johnson, and I watched the rest of the game. I was like, yikes, I think everyone just sucks. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there. So, hopefully a couple get right games for our teams. But thank you so much. And for us, you can follow us at Blue by 90 on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We appreciate you. Go Blue.
Go Blue.